It's Evergreen High, a high school that I designed for the A4LE Schools Next competition. The focus was to break standards of traditional school design and bringing in sustainability and innovation to promote community. So I'm just going to take you through my process of designing buildings for you. Did we get the next slide? My deck. Yeah, okay. So Evergreen is split into two campus buildings, with the North Campus being for innovative general education, and the South Campus being focused on career and technical education. To take you through my design process, I initially began with efficient researching. I looked at the area, its needs, I defined the goals that I would need to approach the project with. Then I moved on to brainstorming and designing the concept, really considering the user as I moved on. I then visualized through sketching and drafted the building through 3D modeling to then design the board, emphasize the story, and bring to you the presentation today. So Evergreen all began with a conversation I had with a friend. I asked her what she really sought out of the school, what she felt was lacking. But it was really important as I researched to avoid general questioning like, what do you like about a school? Because it often got me answers like, I want 5 football fields, which doesn't necessarily address all the needs of students. So, through a specific questioning, I was able to collect efficient research because it changed the way that people view their needs. And these are just some of the ways that I implemented the feedback that I got from these stakeholder groups, from private study rooms for independent work or collaborative work if you wanted to bring over a friend, green spaces, building culture through murals, and a flexible open courtyard to play and learn in. In analyzing my site, which is located on the old White Flint Mall in North Bethesda, Maryland, I really wanted to focus on reducing the amount of impervious surfaces, which is typical to urban spaces like this. It often led to environmental challenges like the heat island effect, which would impact students. So, my goal was to use sustainable design solutions to positively impact the broader community. And in creating the interior spaces to reflect the outdoors through biophilic design, I envisioned a school where users would always remain connected to nature for their own well-being. I first started out with green roofs, which is all throughout the school building, which reduces heat radiation and cools interior temperatures, addressing the local environmental issues, but it also created a communal space for outdoor learning and conversation. Next, with vegetation and exterior green walls, I was able to immerse every user at my school into a natural landscape that they might not typically be used to in this urban area. After the initial intentions of my project were formed, I then designed the space so that regardless of its use, it would promote collaboration and connection. As you can see, I first started out with a very rigid design. It reflected traditional spaces, and I felt like it was really intimidating to me as a student. So I moved on through the rest of my design process with the concept of movement. Sorry, go back one. Even as I designed the spaces, I wanted to connect the most visited areas of a school, from the gym, the cafeteria, the auditorium, and the library. Could you move over? The next one, the next one.
That's the order they on.
Forward. Yeah. These were switched originally, sorry. I also explored several elevation concepts and ideas, finalizing on the first one, as you can see in the middle of the tree, because the triangles appeared to bring movement throughout the entire exterior of the front, inviting students in, but additionally, the triangles also mimicked the traditional schoolhouse. Then, could you go back to? Sorry. One more. Yeah. Yeah. Keeping the same concept of movement through my site design, I made sure that students would be able to move, students and faculty could move through the exterior and interior spaces freely. I also separated the public and private spaces, as the public outdoor commons in the front is usually typically used by community members during after hours, while the student commons in the central of the school is towards the private space because we wanted to keep the students safe. Now that we focus on the exterior, I wanted to move to the interior to focus on how the learning environment brings more engagement. Starting out with experiential learning, which is a form of learning that's active, reflective, and focuses on the growth of students. Individuals at Evergreen, from collaborative projects in the courtyard to interning in their community, are constantly challenged and motivated to excel. Can we move that one? With collaborative learning, which is a form of learning that is interactive, encouraging, and sharing one's opinions and beliefs, working together is central to collaborating at Evergreen High. Now, when all the needs of students and faculty are met, then there are less obstacles to a clear learning experience. And I made sure to introduce this into my design. With a safe environment for mistakes, because success is typically through effort and not through getting all the answers correct, accommodations for students with disabilities are also provided, with classes for them to learn at their own pace, but also connect with students at the school during free periods or when serving at the cafe. And additionally, there is assistive technology used so that all needs of the students are met within the learning space. Now that we've allowed students to feel included into this community, they all have access to this industry classroom connection. In North Bethesda, there are several businesses. There are several businesses in the area, from dentistry and medical to law and entrepreneurship. So, at Evergreen, I created program pathways in the CTE building that reflected those businesses and values held in the community. In addition, the trimester schedule allows for more flexibility and allows students to explore their interests outside of a typical 2-semester framework. And they could use that last semester, typically in their senior and junior years, to focus on interning in their local community. There are also several services to the community that Evergreen provides, and I'm just going to touch on 2 of them. Students can take a child development class and assist with the daycare that's run by the school. Additionally, oftentimes in their CTE classes, they do projects that are done for the community, from fixing computers to building homes and designing posters and so much more. This provides a high-quality education that they can apply their learning in the classroom to helping their community. Additionally, with hands-on learning, I wanted to make sure the space in the school reflected the industry that they would be walking into, so that they can apply all of their learning, hands-on, directly into their internships as they enter their senior or junior years. So for students and faculty to remain engaged, safety was key to Evergreen High. Cushing Terrell says that a healthy school is also one that is safe and secure, with the ability to easily observe the education environment to minimize bullying and quickly respond to a threat. So, at Evergreen, I wanted to make sure there was a positive environment that encouraged safe interactions among students and staff. This is done through the biophilic design that I mentioned earlier, but continuing on, semi-transparency allows for observation during emergencies. Natural barriers are often preferred over gates because that often brings more stress than is needed. And additionally, there are limited entry points with offices nearby to control who enters and exits. But safety goes beyond security. It also applies to mental health, which is central to the learning experience and performance of students. Even in my design, I made sure the counseling services were at the upfront of my building so that students would understand that their needs are very important to the student and that they have access to these spaces all throughout their day. So discovering mental health at Evergreen, there are very lively counseling break rooms where you can check in on your peers and they can check in on you. There are also several opportunities for creative expression throughout the school building and curriculum, which also encourages better mental health. Lastly, typically mindless homework, where teachers pass out a bunch of worksheets that students often find difficult to keep up with the multitude of classes that they are taking. Everybody focuses on application-based learning to reduce that stress. And to continue building spaces that disrupt issues presented by all the people you heard before, Evergreen focused on designing community spaces like lounge areas or courtyards where students feel a greater sense of belonging and safety. This allows them to feel more engaged and participate more in their learning. Evergreen High breaks away from the traditional classroom setup and allows for students to learn in several open and flexible spaces, promoting collaborative learning. Regardless of what program you're in or what class you're taking, you always have the opportunity to communicate with those around you. Taking you through my spaces, I will begin with the public courtyard at the front of the school. Here, there are several murals that the community and students get to work on that allows them to be a part of building the culture that the school provides. Next, the student courtyard is a community focal point where people get to come together during lunch, recess, or any of their free periods for collaboration and celebration. My definition of belonging was a connected school because it's difficult to perform well without a close-knit community and a space for expression. So, the courtyard became the center and the heart of my school. There is also the performing arts and theater in amphitheater at the center of the courtyard where students get to express themselves in all shapes and forms. Just to show you an example of flexible learning at Evergreen, here's an example of an advanced art classroom. As you can see, there are various modes of learning, from working independently to drafting with peers to even painting with a direct view to the outdoor space. Evergreen values this ability to move around and explore all of the spaces in your classroom without feeling limited to a certain spot. The greenhouse, located on the third floor of the CTE building, was the key to experiential learning. With a direct impact on the world around them, students get to grow food that is both used in the cafeteria, but also to provide food drives for the community because often it's difficult to get healthy food in urban spaces. Now, I just wanted to touch on how do we measure success of a design. Most of you already know the post-occupancy evaluation. It's important to pay attention to your project even after its success. So, stay on that slide. You could use town halls or surveys as an opportunity to ask students several questions to measure your design. Additionally, an example was to walk with a small group of students and see what they do in different spaces, or to observe if what they're doing in those spaces match the intention that you initially planned on. Evergreen is a model for sustainable design and community engagement. It sets a standard for secondary education in urban communities. The buildings we live, work, play, and learn in should reflect the needs of the community within the space. Here's my challenge to you all. There is the post-occupancy evaluation, that's the central theme of it. Here are 3 questions I want you to talk about in your groups, from how would you involve student or employee voices in the design process? What would you like to know about the students or the employees' experience? And what is standing in the way